lot of law enforcement agencies are struggling with low morale, recruitment challenges, and a tarnished reputation. If you're ready to transform your agency, to strengthen your team, and build trust in your community, we're here to help. The Elevate Your Call to Service podcast shares a revolutionary approach to leadership development. Join us and discover how to elevate your leadership journey and your agency to new heights of excellence.
We're your hosts, Michael and Kathy McIntosh. Mike is a retired sheriff and current bureau chief in the Denver metro area with nearly 40 years of law enforcement experience.
Kathy is a business and branding expert with a unique perspective on the human side of law enforcement.
Together, we share a powerful blend of practical experience and insightful roadmaps to elevate your call to service. Welcome back, everyone. I've been thinking about a training that Mike attended more years ago than it feels like. It feels like it was just 2 or 3 years ago, but it was probably more like closer to 8 to 10 years ago. Anyway, it was the LEADS training that takes place at Quantico, Law Enforcement Executive Development Seminar. So you were there for a couple of days, learning, doing all the things that you do. You came home with a completely different outlook on sleep. And I did not see that coming out of this seminar, but you got to hear Dr. Chris Winter speak. And he informed you, and I feel like he took your face in his hands and said, Mike, everyone sleeps differently. And you came home with such a different outlook on sleep. And all of a sudden, you were not wondering why, as your wife, I wasn't willing to be a night owl with you. And you started to understand that I needed more sleep than you do, that our sleep patterns are different, that they're not ever going to be the same, and that that's okay. And quite honestly, it was a pivot in our marriage. It's not like that was a huge obstacle for us, but it was just kind of this little tiny burr under the saddle that just bothered you. And all of a sudden that was just lifted from you. And you started to understand the differences between us, which is very cool. Since then, we've kind of become very interested in the habits of sleep and what makes sleep hard during certain times and easier during other times. And we've really tried to just pay attention to the things that help us sleep well or cause us to not have such a great night's rest. We've got a number of friends, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, who struggle to sleep, really severely struggle to sleep. And so this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart because people that I care about are being impacted by it. And it's something that is an aspect of wellness and resilience that we tend to overlook. And we've kind of mentioned before, there's this attitude that I can sleep when I'm dead, right?
Right.
That doesn't fly. Your body has to have sleep. You definitely need it to continue. So sleep deprivation is called a silent epidemic in law enforcement. And officers and a lot of people who do shift work are completely running on fumes, dealing with those long shifts, dealing with high stress, and sacrificing sleep to keep their community safe. Now, one of the questions that I ask my clients when they come to me when we're setting goals, what are you willing to give up in order to meet this goal? And one of the things that people often say is, well, I'll just give up some sleep.
Yep.
That's really not okay. That is not good for your wellness. It's not good for your body. It's not good for the business that you're trying to build. It's not good for your leadership. And we're not talking just about feeling tired. We're really talking about a crisis that's starting to undermine our health as well as our performance and our resilience. There are some severe health consequences that come with sleep deprivation.
Yeah, I've learned a lot about sleep over the years, and it's kind of funny because in law enforcement, it's because we get so little of it,
Right.
that we either don't pay attention to it or we do pay attention to it, but we don't really understand it. And that class really did start to turn on some light bulbs for me. It was really, as you said, it was one of those defining moments, and it just answered a lot of questions for me. And then even now, we have a nutritionist that we utilize. And it is it's funny because, she talks a lot about how important sleep is. How was your sleep this week? And how that affects so many things about our health, and about what our body does when we're sleeping to heal itself, both from a mental perspective and really from a physical perspective. So, yeah, it's an incredible topic. And in law enforcement, it's so hard to get good, solid 8 to 10 hours of sleep. It's kind of unheard of. And we know that, but there's certainly things that we can do to help get over that hump a little bit, right? So that we're doing everything that we can to make sure that we are being as healthy as we possibly can. Because, and I used to say it, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I used to say, if I needed to do something, what am I willing to sacrifice? I was always, and still to some extent, still there. I'll sacrifice sleep so that I can attend that, or that I can do something that I want to do. And that's, it's definitely been a mind shift for me.
Yeah, for sure. And when you talk about law enforcement officers or people who even just do shift work, you finished that 12-hour night shift, because it almost always extends into 12, especially if you have any sort of commute. Your brain's buzzing from whatever critical call you just handled. And you get home and you're supposed to just shut it off and go to sleep just like that. But you can't, because your mind's racing. You're still replaying all the things that have happened. And probably you're wired because you had to have some coffee to stay awake to handle that last call. So you toss and you turn, you maybe get 4 hours of sleep, and then you get up and do the whole thing again.
Yeah. And it's not just the shifts. You might grab a nightcap to unwind because you're thinking that it's help. But again, that's something that can actually fragment your sleep, not help your sleep. In today's day and age, who doesn't sit in their bed and start scrolling through their phone, right? You've got the blue light trickling into your brain, and now your brain's telling you, we're going to stay awake for a while. And then the next day you're irritable. Your focus is shot. You're snapping at your family or your partner on the job. And then what happens that night? Well, you go through the same routine, and pretty soon you get into some serious sleep deprivation.
And over time, it really starts to compound and build on itself. And so you're not just tired. Now you're at risk for heart disease. You're at risk for depression. You're at risk for making a split-second decision on the job that could potentially cost a life.
Yeah.
In his book, so Dr. Chris Winter wrote a book called The Sleep Solution, and he calls this a sleep debt that continues to grow. And so many times it's law enforcement officers that are paying the price in this way with their health and the longevity of their career.
Yeah. And I would say, by seeing sleep as a non-negotiable part of wellness, we can all live better, lead better lives, serve better. It's really kind of time to stop treating sleep as optional and start treating it as a necessity, in fact, as like a superpower.
Yeah, and our main takeaway for this episode is that sleep deprivation can really start to deteriorate wellness and resilience. But with some healthy strategies, we can start to restore health and turn things around, sharpen performance, and reclaim the strength to serve others. Our leading principle, one of the foundational things that we talk about is wellness and resilience. And one thing that we talk about is you can't serve someone else if you're not taking care of yourself.
Right.
It's the put your own oxygen mask on first before you try to help somebody that's flying with you. So we're going to break down how to improve sleep using some practical strategies. These are some of the things that we've learned just by trial and error. A lot of this is inspired by the book, The Sleep Solution. And we'll just talk about it in the realm of specifically law enforcement.
Yeah, so I think that one of the best things that you can do, and the thing that I really like about this first step of having kind of a sleep hygiene routine, is it really doesn't matter what time you go to bed, right?
Yep.
And that's critically important for folks that work shifts, to be able to have some type of routine or even a step that works with them. So if I'm going to bed at 9 o'clock in the morning because I work graveyards, the routine that I get into before I go to sleep, I can practice at 9 o'clock in the morning. I can also practice it at 9 o'clock at night.
So
right?
there's some consistency when you're
Right. So you want to create this consistent wind down for 30 to 60 minutes before bed. And for some, for some people that might be journaling,
that's
just
very helpful for me.
just to kind of start to offload some of that stress, or that some people might want to meditate to calm their mind. I know that when I was working nights, just that wave, we had an app, that a sleep app that I
Sure.
had, that I would play to have some white noise, right? And I would turn that on, and it would help, because it became a habit. It would help get me into that place where I could fall asleep. And make your nightcap hot tea, or something that's going to calm you and to help you relax naturally. And then really, you need to avoid the blue light, the screens, as much as you can before you start to get into your sleep routine.
So our first step was to have that repetitive routine that you can do, whether it's 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. You're telling your body it's time to do the routine, and it's going to start feeling sleepy.
Right.
And we do that with kids and toddlers all the time. There's a routine before bed. You get a bath, you put your pajamas on, you brush your teeth, you say your good nights, there's a bedtime story. All of these things lead up to them laying their head on their pillow, and they're out like a light more times than not, right?
Yep.
Not 100%, but man, it is very effective. Well, the second step would be to optimize your environment, to be really careful about where it is that you sleep. You want your room to be dark and cool and quiet. And we had some, they were actually made out of some kind of faux leather. They were the most amazing room darkening curtains that we had ever had when you were working nights. Those were amazing, to the point where when I would come in to sleep, I didn't want to get up on a Saturday morning because it's still perfectly dark, and I would just sleep and sleep and sleep, which is wonderful. But having something that makes your room dark is a great tool to have. And we like to keep our bedroom somewhere between 60 and 67 degrees. 67 is like almost too hot to even handle,
No.
but closer to 60, 65 is really nice. And then we also like to have white noise. Comfortable bedding is crucial. Now, I'll spill the tea a little bit here, but we bought a great bed and spent way too much money on it, I felt. But I have not been sorry for one second. It was so worth the investment. And right now we're talking about the need to maybe start to invest in some cooling sheets, or, it's time for us to get different pillows. We don't even really think twice about that. If we look at each other and kind of nod and go, it's time, then we're making that investment because we know the impact that it has. So the environment that you put yourself in really does matter. and do all you can to make it your sanctuary and make yourself as comfortable as you possibly can.
Yeah, and you use the comment investment. A lot of people don't look at that as an investment, but after learning how critical sleep is, it truly is an investment in your health. Yeah. So our step 3 is
your marriage. Can I just say?
And your marriage,
And tomorrow,
right? Step 3 is master your schedule. Right. Consistent sleep time, even with rotating shifts. Aim for a regular sleep window as much as possible. I know that we have court. I know that we can get that phone call 3 hours into our sleep, and you have to appear in court. Work in graveyards, or in my case, I can get that phone call at 3:00 in the morning. You need to respond to an incident, right? But as much as you can, try to make sure that you get into a consistent bedtime, and a consistent wake up time when you're off duty. And then, I love me a nap. And if you can nap strategically for 20 or 30 minutes, it really can recharge you without ruining your nighttime sleep, which is really important, right? You have to avoid those late day naps that can mess with your rhythm. But
and I can remember a day where you didn't think it was a nap unless you slept for 2.5 hours, or like, I don't even know how you function. I don't know how you're going to sleep. And you didn't, but your body needed that catch up. But that 20 to 30 minutes is just such a nice reset for your brain. It's amazing the good that can bring.
Right. Yeah.
We also have the mindset. Sleep is important. It is a critical part of wellness. And we can start to reframe sleep as a strength. Dr. Winter emphasizes, he calls sleep performance enhancing. It's our performance enhancing drug. It is not a weakness. So when we start to model this and to talk openly about the sleep that we're getting and the sleep that we need, and to not be embarrassed that we're in bed before 10 p.m. or even before 9 p.m. on some nights, that should be applauded instead of ridiculed, right? And then also, if there is a need to seek some help, we need to give ourselves permission to do that, because it is that important. Don't try to tough it out. Consult a sleep specialist. Go somewhere and get some help so that you can have a better night's sleep.
Right. Yeah, and kind of to your point, these aren't just fluff. These steps aren't fluff. They're really battle-tested tools to help officers reclaim their sleep, and with that, it also builds into their resilience. So we, I'm gonna talk about some stakes and consequences if we do nothing, and so many of us are there in the law enforcement profession. But if we keep ignoring sleep, the consequences really can be dire. And in this book, Dr. Winter warns that chronic sleep deprivation becomes like you're driving drunk.
That's astonishing to me, honestly.
It really is. And one of the things that, when I went through that class, we watched some videos, some studies that they had done, and it was amazing how much it really did look like, between your reaction time and your judgment, it looked like you were impaired, and you're impaired from the lack of sleep. And in law enforcement, if we've worked graveyards, we've been in those positions where it's like, oh, wow, I'm really tired. I need to stop the car, get out of it, walk around, do things to kind of help me stay awake. But it goes back to, if we keep going through that sleep debt, those situations are going to occur more. And that's very dangerous in our profession.
Yeah. And it also, affects us personally, that sleep debt it can bring heart attacks, it can bring mental health issues, it can bring burnout that ends your career. It can affect your family and your marriage. You can stop communicating well because you're so tired and snippy. And when you're exhausted, you're not present for your family. You're just not. You're 3 seconds away from falling asleep at any given moment, and your family feels like they just don't matter.
Right.
That you're not a priority to them, and that is not the case. And if we don't do something, we're failing our families, we're failing our communities, we're failing our partners, we're failing our agency. It is that critical. We are not overstating this, right?
Yeah.
And in our studies, we've tried to build a roadmap for resilience, and this is probably the hardest part for us is that wellness and resilience piece. It's probably our weakest area that we're continually trying to build up, and it's taking the most work from us, but we're also seeing the most significant results. And so we're just here to try to help guide with some tools that have been effective and helpful and fit the real world of policing. A lot of times when you hear somebody talk about sleep, you think, oh, well, that's just for somebody who works 9 to 5 and they're home every night and they can go to bed at 9 or 10 p.m. I can't even possibly. I'm just getting to work at that time, however it works. Yes, you can, even if you're a law enforcement officer, make some changes that matter to the people that you care about most. And we've got a framework. We're going to call it the REST framework. And it's just a recap of everything that we've talked about here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with rest, we want to build that pre-bedtime ritual. And again, the one that I love about this, or the thing that I love about this most, is it doesn't matter whether you go to bed at 9 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock in the morning. You can create a ritual, 30 to 45, maybe even an hour before you're getting ready to go to sleep. Start this ritual. Journal, meditate, sip on herbal tea. This, believe it or not, this habit will start to signal to your body that it's getting ready to go to sleep. It's going to come to expect that. And then the E is, your environment. Make sure that you optimize your bedroom. Make it dark, make it cool, make it quiet, or have that sleep app that has that white noise. Make sure that you have quality bedding. All of these things are going to help maximize the sleep that you do actually get, right? And then the S is for schedule. Schedule that time for your sleep. Have those anchor sleep times. And then if you can, obviously I don't recommend this at work, but use strategic naps to stay consistent. Even with shift work, right?
For sure. And police work is a little bit different, but in an office job that I once had, we had a receptionist literally who would borrow somebody's office and go lay on the floor and sleep for 20 minutes at lunchtime every single day.
Yeah.
You can find a way to take a break to stay healthy and to protect your wellness.
And I've actually heard of agencies that have sleep rooms that are specifically for that. Just get to the office, code out of service for those 30 minutes during your lunch hour, and get some rest. And then the T is for think, and I think that's such a critical piece, right? A lot of this is a mindset. Reframe sleep as a strength, something that you really need, something that we talk all of the time in law enforcement, that we've got all kinds of tools on our tool belt. Well, this is a tool to put on your tool belt. It's not a luxury. You need to have good sleep.
Yep.
And if you need to, then seek a professional to help if you have sleep problems.
Yeah. We generally start to end and wrap up our episodes with the challenge. There are only 4 steps in rest. We're not going to restate those one more time, but pick one and start to implement it. I wanted to speak into the journaling piece just a little bit here, and Dr. Winter gave me a different perspective on journaling. If somebody says journal an hour before bedtime, to me that means, wow, I don't have that much to say. I don't know that I could write for an hour. You don't have to write for an hour. Get your journal out while you're sipping that hot tea or whatever it is that you're enjoying during that part of your routine, and give yourself permission to dump your brain during that hour. So it could look like I'm going to jot 3 things down, and then I sit for 15 minutes and just contemplate how tomorrow's going to look. And then all of a sudden I'll have something else to write down. It is not writing for the entire time. It's just that set time of, this is when I do my brain dump, and this is when I release the things that I think I'm going to wake up worrying about tomorrow. So many times we think, okay, I need to get this one task done, and if I don't do this tomorrow, XYZ is going to happen, right?
Right.
So it plagues my sleep all night long. I can't forget. I can't forget. I can't forget. If I've written it down, I'm not going to forget. And now I can just set it aside and move on with my sleep pattern.
Yeah, that's so good. It's that, you know, I think of us getting to that point where, you know, if you can even picture that, and you know, there's I don't do all of these things well, but the more I learn about it, the more I try to apply these principles. But just, you know, imagine you wake up refreshed and your mind's sharp and your body's ready for the day. You're a lot calmer under pressure. You're a lot quicker on your feet, and you're present for your team and your family. Sleep isn't just rest. It's the foundation of a stronger and more resilient you. Your agency has a chance to thrive because officers are healthier, more focused, and less burned out. And when leaders can champion sleep as one of their pillars of wellness and communities get to benefit from this. The agency gets to benefit from this. When officers are at their best, everybody wins, and it allows our agencies to thrive.
Agreed completely. So our encouragement is to not let sleep deprivation cause you to lose your edge. Commit to just one small change. Talk about it with your family. This is the goal we're trying to set. This is why we're trying to do it. Will you work with me? That doesn't mean you have exactly the same sleep patterns, but can we develop some of these habits together as a family and make wellness and resilience the heartbeat of your home, the heartbeat of your career? Share your progress with your team. Be open to talking about it, and get other people on board alongside you.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. When you have that communication with your family, and really now you have the permission to, hey, everyone, I'm going to start my bedtime ritual at 8:30 in the evening. Everybody's going to make adjustments to that, right? And if you're having that communication up front, then nobody is going to be offended or take that action of you getting up at 8:30 and just kind of walking out.
Right.
Or, hey, can we talk about this tomorrow? Well, no. It's important to talk about it tonight. It's if you set those boundaries and you communicate those well,
Goes all the way back to clear communication, doesn't it?
it does. Yeah, it's so important. So I think it's really important to make sleep a priority and not just an afterthought. And really with rest, that REST framework, and a commitment to the wellness, we can elevate our health, and we get to elevate our teams, and we get to elevate our call to service.
For sure. We are going to put a link to Dr. Winter's book in our show notes. So check there if you would like more information about purchasing it. It's a good read. It's definitely something that will boost your wellness. Thanks for being here. Ready to build a stronger team, improve your reputation, strengthen officer safety, and recruit top talent? Visit us at leleaders.com and schedule a call with us today. We'd love to discuss how our coaching programs, workshops, and keynote addresses can help you build proactive leaders in a reactive profession.
In the meantime, if you like what you've heard today, we'd love your 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.